SHR situation is getting very interesting according to Bob Pockrass, and Dale Jr. has a new deal. Let's get into it. Coming up next. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing good today. All right, silly season is in full swing. It is really starting to heat up. And according to Bob Pockrass, he goes over basically what's going on right now with the charters, with SHR in particular, and with the drivers. So let's jump into all that from his article at Fox Sports. Where NASCAR charter talks, driver silly season currently stand by Bob Pockrass. NASCAR met with the Team Owners Council on Wednesday, and those in attendance indicated that there was no progress. The 36 charter team owners all voluntarily contribute. There is no requirement to join to the Race Team Alliance to give them a collective voice and operate programs to benefit teams. They also have designated 4 team executives: Hendrick Vice Chairman Jeff Gordon, Joe Gibbs Racing President Dave Alpern, RFK Racing President Steve Newmark, and 2311 co-owner Michael Jordan Business Manager Curtis Polk as their team negotiating committee, but NASCAR has opted to talk to individual owners rather than the committee in recent months. So the charter agreements are still in flux, regardless of what Steve O'Donnell said, saying he thinks that they're really close to getting an agreement. According to this article, all the owners have basically agreed and said that they haven't made any progress on it. And also important and of note is that they named those 4 high executives in teams as their spokespeople. That being Jeff Gordon, Steve Newmark, Dave Alpern, and Curtis Polk of 2311. So those are the 4 guys that basically are going to be speaking on behalf of the teams. But it did also say that NASCAR has just gone above them and just gone past them and started talking with the teams individually. I made a whole video on that. We're not going to go over all that again, but Bob Pockrass did say in this article what they are still negotiating. So let's look at that. The teams want a higher percentage of media rights. Currently, they get 25% through the purse and a percentage of future revenues, such as gambling rights, that NASCAR brings in. But they also want permanent charters, which NASCAR has told teams that it won't do since its media rights deals are not permanent. So there you go. Making the charters permanent is 100% what is holding up this whole deal, and I've thought for a long time that was the case. But of course, Bob Pockrass comes out and flat out tells us now that is the sticking point. The teams want the charters to be permanent so that they can invest fully into these things, and NASCAR doesn't want the charters to be permanent because their TV deals are not permanent. So the charters are only good, according to NASCAR, for as long as the TV deals. And I'm just going to be totally honest. I'm going to give my full-on opinion about this. This is absolute bullshit from NASCAR. It is complete and total utter nonsense. You can make the charters permanent and just make the charter agreement. The charter agreement can be a totally different thing. Just make the charters permanent. The charters will always be something. You will always be a part of NASCAR, but you will always have to come back to the table like they do in every other professional sport and renegotiate every time you have a TV contract. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't have to be a flat, permanent structure, the charter agreement, TV contract aspect of it. You can always renegotiate those things at a later date or every time you renegotiate the TV deal. That is such a BS excuse in my opinion, because the TV deals are never going to be permanent. You should make the charters permanent if you're going to have charters to begin with. Like NASCAR invented these charters and brought them into the sport, so if you're going to have them, make them. Like you own the team charter until you sell it, basically. So that, to me, that is a very weak argument, and if this is what's holding it up, then I'm just going to give my opinion. NASCAR is in the wrong on it. All right, enough about that. Let's get to the important part, because the teams are acting like the charters are going to be there forever anyway, because teams still want to buy charters and stuff like that. So let's look at the silly season and who is trying to buy a charter, because it's really starting to heat up with SHR. Let's see what he had to say about that. The biggest team that is at least listening to offers to sell charters is Stewart-Haas Racing. Currently, our 4-car team, the organization has not renewed its Ford deal yet or next year, and it has sent prospective buyers information on what it should take to purchase a charter. There are several teams that want charters to expand. Those include TrackHouse, Legacy Motor Club, 23XI, and possibly Front Row Motorsports. Front Row, if it expands, also likely would need more space. SHR, which has 2 big buildings, one a cup shop, the other has served as the Haas Formula One U.S. headquarters, also could sell one of its buildings if it downsizes. So let's start off with that Front Row one. If Front Row expands, there is a lot of things at play here. Who would they bring in as the driver if they expand? All kinds of stuff like that. Would they keep Michael McDowell? Would they keep Todd Gilliland? Is Love's going to stay on? There are a million questions as to whether or not, when Front Row expands, do they partner with Stewart-Haas Racing? And all those scenarios factor in a lot of different ways. So what if it becomes Stewart-Haas Racing with Front Row Motorsports, right? Then you technically would have 4 cars. You have expanded, but you basically have combined it all into one program. That would get you the building and things like that. But in that case, at least one driver would have to leave. And Ryan Preece is the only driver currently whose contract ends at the end of the season. So Ryan Preece would be the obvious choice of one driver to go. But if you keep both drivers, another driver has to go. And that's going to put Stewart-Haas at a serious decision. Do you want to get rid of Chase Briscoe? Do you want to get rid of Josh Berry? Do you want to get rid of Noah Gragson? It seems like all of those guys bring sponsorship. Mahindra Tractors looks like they've been pretty loyal to Chase Briscoe. Noah Gragson always brings Bass Pro Shops and Winchester and, all the stuff that comes, basically Black Rifle Coffee that comes with Bass Pro Shops. And, of course, Josh Berry has brought a slew of sponsors with him as well. So which one of those guys you would get rid of would be anybody's guess. And I do, as far as I know, from what I've read, all of those guys are under contract. So what if... just for the sake of argument, what if, because Michael McDowell has talked about leaving, and let's actually address this from Bob Pockrass' article as well. Michael McDowell talked to other teams last year, but Front Row picked up his option. If he looks to make a move for 2025, among the teams looking would be Spire, assuming that TrackHouse brings Smith in-house next year. I also don't think that that's necessarily the only way that Michael McDowell could go to Spire. What if Spire gets rid of one of their other drivers? I think they would keep Carson Hocevar, but what if they just decide, Zane Smith, you're going to go have to find a ride with TrackHouse some other way. TrackHouse might have to, talk with Colleague or somebody like that to figure it out for Zane Smith. But what if they just got rid of Zane Smith and brought in Michael McDowell, who is going to be the veteran presence that Spire wants? So then you've got Michael McDowell leaving, and you've got Todd Gilliland going over there to SHR. If they, this is all speculative, so it gets crazy. It gets like things are going all over the place crazy. But in that case, you've got Todd Gilliland, and you could keep 3 of the 4, and it makes sense now that Ryan Preece, the tweet, it has a little bit more gravity when he said he was left out of the study session. So what if that is the case? Like I said, all speculative, but then you would have Noah Gragson, Chase Briscoe, Josh Berry, and a young Todd Gilliland over there. So a very young team over there at SHR, if that is going to be what happens. But, there is the other aspect that maybe TrackHouse gets involved. So let's look at that angle. TrackHouse is the one organization that might need charters the most, as it currently has 4 drivers under contract, but only 2 Cup charters. It has loaned Zane Smith to Spire Motorsports for this year, and Shane Van Gisbergen is doing a full-time Xfinity Series and partial Cup schedule on loan to Colleague Racing. And so there is the TrackHouse conundrum. Does TrackHouse try to get at least one of the Stewart-Haas charters? Do they try to rent or loan a charter, or get a rent or a loan on a charter from either Colleague or Spire again? So TrackHouse is the one that they could really throw a monkey wrench into all of this. The only thing I can say for sure is I think JTG Doherty Racing, the 47, I guess we should say, from here on out, it seems like they want to go forward with their charter. So I don't think their charter is for sale anymore. But the fact that Stewart-Haas has said, if you want to buy one of our charters at least, or maybe they've got 2 of them for sale, TrackHouse has to be the main team in there, and Front Row Motorsports seems to be in the background as well. Don't count out 2311. 2311 just wanting to buy a charter. In that case, SHR would just lose a charter and probably would lose one as well. RCR, you would also have to put on that list as a team that they don't really get talked about, but I feel like RCR has got some things going behind the scenes and probably want to get that charter for Austin Hill as well. I don't see why they would have signed him to a long-term contract. So RCR, not really talked about often enough, in my opinion. I think they're trying to get a third charter too, but they're keeping it, sort of hush-hush, trying to get that Austin Hill deal put together. Prime Video Plus, the WB today, are formally confirming they have signed Dale Jr. in separate broadcast deals to become part of their NASCAR booth talent starting in 2025. Earnhardt to also participate in a Bleacher Report digital social content series produced by Dirty Mo Media. Dale Jr. then went and released a clip of his podcast on the Dirty Mo Media YouTube channel where he says basically June and July are going to be what he works as far as that goes, but they're also going to be producing content not only for Bleacher Report, but probably he's thinking Amazon is going to be interested in some of that content that Dirty Mo is currently producing as well right now. So you're probably about to see a lot more of Dale Jr. in the future. Just in case you didn't know, the thing that came out on Netflix, that was also produced by Dale Jr. The documentary that was released on Netflix this year, as well, the name of it escapes my head as we speak right now. Anyway, trying to get this one out really fast. Got a small window to get this one done, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Let me know down below what you think about any of this if you would like to. If it's just the first time to the channel, would love to have your subscription. If not, I'll keep making these things. If you're already subscribed, you know I appreciate you all as well. And if you want to help out the channel, visit the merch store. The link is in the description. We got t-shirts, hats, stickers, and sweatshirts just in time for summer. And other than that, thanks for your time. Peace.